Heyo, welcome everyone to episode 96 of Today in the Scene. I'm Joe with Indie Arcade Wave, and I just want to say thank you for checking us out. If you like what we're doing here at Indie Arcade Wave, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us build the wave, and then we can all ride it forward. So, I've got someone special on today, someone that I've been talking to for 4 or 5 years now about indie games and just arcades in general. He comes from West Virginia, where he owns an arcade called Starport Arcade. I have had Chris Meyers on the show before, but we're gonna bring him back on. So, how you doing, Chris?
Hey, brother, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited to talk to you again. It's always so long between conversations with us, but it's always so enjoyable when we talk.
Well, we
Um,
we've been chatting on text a little bit, so it's not like, we're still connected. But yeah,
right.
anytime you want to have me, this is like one of the few things I love doing. So,
Sweet. Well, we'll just jump right in and kind of let you tell people who you are. So just give us an intro. Who is Chris Myers?
Chris Meyers, I'm the owner of Starport Arcade and Pub, the brand Starport. I also own Triangle Amusements, which is like my amusement company. In the intro, you said I was from West Virginia. I'm actually from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have a route that runs in the state of Pennsylvania, Ohio, Maryland, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and Virginia. And we touch on a little bit of northwestern New York. So I do coin op amusements in all those states, everything from indie games, pinball, jukeboxes, dartboards, pool tables, you name it, we do it. If it takes coins, we probably do it or have done it. Um, yeah, that's pretty much the best I could do. But I obviously you have me on here because I love indie games and I feel like I've probably purchased more indie games than anyone I know, but maybe not. And I'm always looking to add to my collection. I know Dan Fessler is coming out with a new game I'm really excited about. So
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up pretty good there. Like, I've known you've been doing coin ops for a really long time, and yeah, Dan's game. We just had him on the other day. I'll throw that interview up in the corner so people can see it
yeah,
already.
check it out, man. Dan's doing something really
Sweet
cool.
game.
Yeah.
Everything DSM releases is awesome, and I know he's got
Yeah.
3 or 4 more in the pipeline. I can't wait to see him. But
Hey,
just
man. Yep.
tell us how you got started. Like, how did Starport come to be, and how did you get into coin op?
Yeah, I mean, I was adopted by someone who was in the coin operated business, and when I became 18, it was a natural progression. I was doing it since I was 18. Matter of fact, I just paid my license to be an operator in the city of Pittsburgh for the 21st time. I have the original stamp from it was 2001, the year I graduated high school was the first year I put my first jukebox out there, and I never looked back, man. I mean, I went to college and I worked a normal job like part time or full time while I was doing coin op part time, and I just couldn't be stuck to a cubicle. It was brutal. So once I decided to go full time with it, we just kept expanding and growing, and this is in a time when games were relatively cheap. Now nothing's cheap, so it's a whole different thing. I don't know how I'd get started today, to be honest. But and then the indie game scene kind of blew up for me like 2015. I started hearing a lot about it. Chatted up with Brian Lee and the guys from Bumble Bear, and brought on Killer Queen, and then from that point, contacted Shane, went to MGC, bought a Cosmotrons, met Tony there, bought a Death Ball, talked to Dan, and then it just keeps going. Like then people started referring me to other smaller, even smaller operations than the people we just named. And there were some really interesting developments. Just before and I walked in to grab the Starport hoodie, we were Rob was here in my shop maybe about 4 weeks ago with one of our technicians to do an update on the Armed and Gelatinous. So Starport potentially is going to go under a 3,000 square foot addition to the current site, which is 12,000 square feet. And that's where there'll be an indie game section there. Right now, we're full with games that were customer requests. And if we take that expansion, we're hoping to get that done sometime in November. Then every indie game that I own will be there, which is maybe like a dozen different games. So I'm excited. I know all the guys that know how I feel about indie games are excited just because it's another chance, and we try to operate their games, you know, like they should be operated. I feel like sometimes when I go and play these games out in the wild, they just haven't been maintained. Um, yeah, and then the new one I got actually that I haven't had that I never really had. I've been talking to the guy for a while. Was the Retro Raccoons? I guess Incredible Technologies picked up his development, uh, the development of his game, and kind of refit the cabinet to one of their standardized size cabinets, and it's been pretty cool. People really like it. So
Yeah, I love that you have all these indies, and you're right. Your collection is very large. I think there's like two, maybe three people I know in the country that have a collection as large as yours or larger, and that would be Mark from Wonderville because he builds custom indie cabinets all the time. He would be a cool person for you to talk to. You might find something you like. But
yeah, you should hook me up, man. I'd love to talk to him.
I definitely will link that up. And you kind of mentioned that you have all these indies. Um, why did you feel like taking the risk on these indies, and what is it about them that you love so much?
You know, ultimately, really started off with Killer Queen. Zach Pullman from Abari Game Bar. Now it's Super Abari. He just reopened. Shout out to Zach. He had Killer Queen, and he had leased a cab off them, and then he ended up buying one. And I went and played it. Obviously, I liked it. And then I had a little connection to Magfest, and those games were there certainly a few times that I was there. So I saw how polished it was, and how like it was pretty well-rounded, polished, had like a deeper kind of rule set game. So I was pretty excited to get one. And that was in, you know, at the same time we were opening the first Starport, so it was like a no-brainer to have something like that, bring that to the community. So we did that, and then realistically, once I saw that, there was a lot of effort from those guys to do these things. Um, and they really, most of the people I met in the indie community, like when I met Shane and geez, his name's escaping me now. He's on here somewhere. Let me jump into my notes here.
Shane and Dave.
Dave, yeah, Dave Furrer, I think his name was. Yeah. So then I met Shane and Dave, and I wanted Cosmotrons. It was so cool. I mean, that cabinet has won like the arcade game of the show many times. I mean, I'm looking at a lot of awards for that cab. I think I got 6 awards total. I've sent Shane a couple of them over the years just because, you know, that's awesome. I think it's a good accolade for them. But, then we got involved with that, and so it turned into like a snowball effect. Like I was seeking out people, trying to meet people, try to do my part to help the small developers succeed, put them in a location that's, a marquee location. I mean, Starport probably puts close to 500,000 people through that building every year. So it gets people's eyes on something they haven't seen before. And we get a lot of questions about it. We always try to refer those people to, the developers or the manufacturers or whoever the end contact is. One of the things about CoinOp though, in general is people are always surprised what games cost. I mean, it to me, that's the game. You have to be able to purchase the game to be able, it's an upfront cost. It's a little bit higher than what people assume. But so now I just fell in love with like the community. It's really about the people, like the guys like you and Dylan and everybody from all the different manufacturers or developers. When you call for support, you're talking to the guy that made it, and they're passionate about what they make and resolving issues with the game. And it's so much better of an experience. I'm not knocking our big manufacturers and CoinOp. They do a great job, but I mean, they probably handle 1,000 calls a day, so the personal experience, the passion, going to the shows, meeting these people, you know, it's something that I really liked. It was nice to see, meet everybody, and then, try to make their game sustainable in our arcade. And I mean, it's an uphill battle because, there's not brand recognition with those things. Like, that's like our biggest hurdle when you have, a 8 to 15-year-old kid in the arcade. They know all the licenses from the pinball machines, or they know Jurassic Park or Halo, or even Minecraft is another one that's like huge for us. Like, we love mine. It's a great product. And with get drawing them to the indie games is like, there's a challenge in that. One of the things I always thought was, if I ever, and I have we have 4 developers on our staff full time that work for me, excuse me, for our company. We work together on developing games. I've never released an indie game yet. I have several that are made and polished, but it's like, you know, I don't want to put it in like, a standard cab. I want to make sure it's something like Cosmotron or something like that, just because that game got gravitated to because of how it looked. I always tell the story that when we first got it, we put it right in the front where the front door was for the entrance at the old Starport. And I can't tell you how many people came in and thought it was a retro game. Like, they thought it was some vector game that they never seen before. And, a lot of people played that game based on that, you know. And then I always say, one of the other things I say about indie games is, it brings in an audience that will stay at your establishment. So you can't really base it off of, the earnings on the game. If you own the establishment, like an arcade bar, then it's worth it to roll the dice on one of these games, because it's something that most of your competitors won't have, or it won't be prevalent in your area. It's not like you're going to have, like, there's 12 Jurassic Parks within 10 miles of Starport, you know, but we still have it and it still earns well. But I mean, having the indie games is like, it gives an opportunity for someone to play something different. And then that's like a cult following of people that come to your bar to be there, for, I would say, a significant amount of time. And one lesson I've learned is, you're never going to make more coins than you are going to do on alcohol. So, if you can look at it that way and monetize what the cabinet costs, it's worth it to try some of these indie games. I mean, I stand on that because, anywhere we've had them, they've they've certainly brought people to the bar. And, they've never been the best earners in your location, but they've been the best draw in a lot of scenarios. So, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer to it. You're right. It's that unique aspect of you having the only one in the state, like, period,
Oh
in
yeah,
the state. So when you have the collection like you have, and you have 7 or 8 games that are the only one in the state, it
sure.
makes people want to come to Starport, and that's clearly something that sets you apart. What else about Starport sets you apart from other arcades in your area?
Well, in our area, we're probably about 65 miles from Pittsburgh. And I still don't think, even in Pittsburgh, we're working on a project in Pittsburgh right now. We have a few arcades in Pittsburgh that are pretty big. Um, but with Starport, it's just like, it's not like a Dave and Buster's. Everyone asks me if it's like Dave and Buster's, and I'm like, well, the difference between us and Dave and Buster's, we have 20 pinball machines at Starport, or we have a retro game section or an indie game section. We have redemption games, self-redemption games. We have some of the Raw Thrills games, but that's the difference. Like, when you go to Dave and Buster's, it's about tickets, and it's about like fast play games. They go on a square footage calculation that I wouldn't even dream of doing. But the the reality is, you can play things like, if you're 40, I'm almost 40. So if you're my age, you'll see a lot of things there that you used to like. And then the kids see a lot of things there that they recognize with, like, licenses that are relevant to today. So, and that's how we make that introduction to the indie games. I mean, one of my favorite stories just about, indie games in general is, I became really good friends with someone that we used to compete against each other at Donkey Kong, like, pretty heavily. I would go into Starport at like 4 in the morning and flick a couple of the games on while I was going through the audits and doing some of the management functions of the establishment, and I'd try to beat Jim's score on Donkey Kong. Okay, and eventually I'd beat it. He's much better than me at it, but So I started to like just, say to him, I'd text him and be like, "Hey, we became pretty good friends." And I'd say, "Play Black Emperor. Like I want to see how it's a different mechanic, it's a different dynamic. It's like retro style, but it's a new game." And I mean, now he's like the biggest fan of that game. And then the same thing happened. We started to play that against each other, and then we started to play Switch and Shoot against each other. And I mean, I was late for work many nights. I used to go down to Starport every 6 weeks to kind of like settle things up and meet with my management staff that was there. And I would be at like 3 in the morning. We'd close at 3. They'd get the place shut down. We'd have like an hour meeting with the staff, and that was how tight my schedule was. And then afterwards, I would like, go through some of the audits, get any game repairs that needed done that I could do, or get a log to a technician, and then and spend like 15 minutes playing games that compete. I played a game of Switch and Shoot once, and I was so close to like beating his score, and we were going and going. I mean, I lost track of time. I got a phone call while I was at Starport for the customer I was supposed to meet at 6 a.m. and he was like, "Where are you?" I was actually late because I was playing Switch and Shoot. So it's the truth, man. It's so crazy to say that, but I mean, and that's part of like what I think is I mean, I've played every game, and for me to be attracted to some of these indie games really is like I think it just needs a chance and like opportunity to be played, and then I think a lot of people will like them. I mean, it's just you got to give it a chance. That's the thing. People go to an arcade if they're gonna spend $5, they tend to gravitate to what they know. But like, once you kind of get an intimate feel for the arcade, especially Starport, I mean, our downstairs where we have our retros and indies and all that right now is like there's no lights but like very little accent light. So it's like the old school arcade. When you walk into the basement of Starport, the current Starport, it doesn't feel like a basement, first of all, and second, it has that old 80s arcade feel to it. I love it. Just seeing the marquees or light in the space. It's just, that's what I think gravitates, the older generation that used to play these games to that. And then you can sometimes liaison them into, an indie game.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like you're unique for your area by means of one, having the indies, two, having like a really good balance of like, I mean, the redemptions. I'm assuming you have like claw machines and stuff like that,
We have some of that, yeah.
and then you've got obviously like some of the newer games from Raw Thrills. You've got the
Sure.
old retro games. Like, there's
Yep.
just a really nice balance. Usually, you find a lot of arcade bars that are like purely retro, or they have like
Yep.
new stuff, or there's not a whole lot. And you're super right about just giving it a chance. Like,
Yep.
I think the indie scene just needs arcade owners to just take the risk. Like, if you're selling alcohol and that's your main moneymaker, like
Yep.
take the risk on an indie.
Yep.
It might pay off big. You have no idea on that one. Your community might really like it.
I agree. I mean, like that's why I said what I said. I mean, it's not. I didn't say that to just put words in there. I'm not. I try to connect with a lot of arcade bar owners. Message me on Facebook and things like that. I try to talk to them about that. Just add it to your business plan. Even if you buy one a year to change it up. You'll pay $12,000 for a pinball that's going to take 2 years to earn its money back. You know, throw that in the hat or in the pot too. I mean, and it gives you something different. Like, we're not these small arcade owners are not. We're not going to be Dave and Buster's. We're not going to be CEC Entertainment or Player One Amusements. It's just not going to. I mean, it would take you even the large ones like the Pins Mechanicals that are out there. That I wish they would do that. Like, I mean, because it's another way to get that stuff recognized. Some of the bigger arcades that are in Pittsburgh that aren't operated by me, they never have indie games, and I can never convince the operators to do it. I just, you know, I don't know. And of course, there's like a conundrum too. Like I own Starport, so like it's not like if I buy a game, I'm making the alcohol sales off it, so I don't have to worry about like the issues with that. But once the game's paid for, it's really cool to take it to other sites that we have that are not owned by me, and it gets to be put in an even more unique environment. We've done it before. We've done pop-up arcades. The downtown partnership in Pittsburgh has had like children's festival for many years. I've had almost all the indie games there. Special events they have down there. You see the Cosmopolitan. We always had indie games there. just to get those games in front of people that are, I don't want to call them famous, but people that are like actors or bands or things like that. So it's another way to get some cool advertising for indie games.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And you're someone that I mean, I've met so many people along the journey of like running Indie Arcade Wave, but you've got a ton of experience in the coin operating space, and you have tons of games, different routes. You're in, I mean, what'd you say, like seven,
Eight
eight,
eight
nine
states, yeah.
states?
Eight
So,
states, yeah. We
so
just
let's hear from you, like in your experience, what earns the best? Like someone's about to open an arcade. You
Mhm,
said it might be pretty tough right now, but they're looking at
mhm.
games. Like, what games should they be looking to get their earnings rolling?
So you mean indie games or any games?
Any games, like pinball,
A-
anything.
any games, yeah. I mean, honestly, for the track record with raw thrill driving and shooting games, I mean, I know they're expensive, but they just hold up. Like it's not a secret. I have Jurassic Park games that have absolutely been beat down to the core at movie theaters, at bowling centers, at Starport. I mean, and they just keep going. So when you're starting out, having maintenance issues right out of the gates is terrible for your site to have to go through those type of trials and tribulations.
Gets very
So
costly very fast too.
yeah, I mean, everybody wants, like, it's funny because, I get this message probably weekly. Hey, I have 30 arcade games in my basement and I'm thinking about starting this arcade bar by my house. And it's like, okay, you turn your games on like once a week and play, with your wife or your kids or whatever. But when monitors are on 16 hours a day and people are coming in there and spilling things on them and beating on them. I mean, our technician staff, the things they have to do to keep the games running, big shout out to all my guys and gals on that side. I mean, they totally bulletproof some of these games. And even after that, they may see that game that they just bulletproofed a week later. It's not, it's not, they are absolutely they're what we need. And that's the other biggest thing is like everyone that's like dreaming about having that arcade. I love the idea. I mean, I really think the rising tide raises all ships. I don't see it as like a competition thing. Like I wish we had an arcade right next to Starport, and we can, as long as you did something slightly different, it would be good for everyone. But the maintenance issues with games that are 35 and 40 years old are a little bit different. I mean, especially our vector games, Joe. I mean, we have a guy that just repairs vector monitors like constantly. You know what I mean? Like every time it's something else. But yeah, I would say stick with like if you can intertwine some modern games into that retro and pinball world that makes the arcade cool. I would say to do that. You know, Getting into redemptions even like a whole nother thing. It can be costly. You can make mistakes that are 5-figure mistakes in redemption. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that, but like stick with like the things that we know are well made. Any product from Ice, Raw Thrills, and then sprinkle in the love for the indie crowd because I mean that will set you apart from someone else that's kind of doing the same thing. I don't I don't like it to be bland. We have a rule at Starport too. We trade out at least 15% of the inventory every month. Like that's just I. Always do that. We have a large collection of games. We have guys working around the clock, maintaining and fixing these games and putting them in a pile or in the side of the warehouse that's ready to go. I review that. We get requests from customers all the time, and we try to honor those requests, and it's pretty cool. I mean, on Starport's Facebook page right now, someone just said to me, "You took Dig Dug out. I love Dig Dug," and I'm like, "Well, it'll be back because you won't be the only person that complains that it's gone." So, and that's where like probably that 3,000-foot expansion will help a lot of that. Like, I think we have like 90 games in there right now, but really our goal is to have about 120 games. So, hopefully with that expansion, we're supposed to build a party room that's roughly 900 square foot just for the party room. So, I think, you know, even that'll help kind of because for some of our parties, we'll put games on free play in the party room as part of the party package, and people like that. A lot of times, people will, if they book a party out far enough, they'll make a request, and then I can actually I can actually honor it, and like it's kind of cool whenever someone asks for something as silly as like, I want a Star Wars cockpit for my party. And I'm like, okay, we'll see what we can do. Can't make any promises. And they show up and it's there and like, what? Yeah, so it's kind of neat. But that would be my recommendation. Like stick with some modern stuff that's gonna, the retro games and the indies and pinball, obviously I support that. I want you to do that. But to get your footing, you don't want to be fixing everything that you have in there on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I always tell owners with the indie games is it may not like it may be a little more expensive than you want to pay for right now, but you're not going to be doing maintenance on that cabinet. Like it's
No.
you're barely going to have anything. We've had a cabinet at Glitch Bar down in Florida for over 2.5 years now, I think, and
Yeah, probably
we've
nothing.
sent
Yeah.
them joysticks.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like
Yep.
just the joystick tops. Somebody was on spring break. They took their
Yeah.
trophy. They twisted the top off. That was it. So we
Yeah.
haven't even had any issues with it. So that's big. Like just be ready for that as a beginner.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Like if that's the biggest problem you have, man, that's great. That the Pack Battle Royale, I should probably have stock in the company that builds the ball tops for Namco. I can't. I mean, I probably have 100 of them at my shop because I put them in my van every time I go out on my route because I'm gonna run into one.
You're
And
probably gonna have to fix it.
yeah, and they just take them and like I don't. But I mean, I've done everything, man. Someone really went to the length of getting them off because I basically got tired of it, and we epoxied them onto or put all like the thread the thread lock
Loctite
on
or
them.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, Loctite. I mean, and they still somehow get them off. So if you're one of those people, you're a jerk. But
I
yeah,
mean, you earned it at the same time if you got it
yeah,
off.
if you got it off, I mean, you did what you did, but shout out to you. So
So you obviously have just an insane collection between like all of the places, all the coin ops, and everything you're running.
sure.
What games are you on the hunt for? Like, I feel like these are probably really specific, rare games. Like, what are you looking for right now?
Honestly, there's only one arcade game I'm looking for. I pretty much got everything on that side. Pinball, 1978 till current. I have every game that was a production game. Um, believe it or not, the only game I'm looking for is Magic the Gathering. I think it was a Konami game. It's pretty rare. Um, if anyone out there has one and wants to email me, chris@starportarcade.com, I assure you that I will not negotiate your price for the most part unless you are absolutely insane. I will be happy to pay you what you would like for that game. That's pretty much the only one I don't have. I mean, and I'm looking at main production games. Like, I'm not necessarily looking at like do I have some remake of something, or do I have what's the other way I'm trying to say? Like, if it wasn't a production game, I may want it, and I do have some that aren't production. Cloak and Dagger comes to mind. I have an original Cloak and Dagger prototype cabinet, and it was like more of a conversion game. But like, anything that was a production game, I'm interested in, having. But I don't think there's anything out there. I mean, if you'd asked me this question 10 years ago, I'd had you a nice list, but I hunted those down pretty hard. I knew a lot of operators in the Midwest, that we just had to buy 200 cabinets to get one I wanted. It was a nightmare. I'd have to send you some pictures, man, of like semi trailers where we laid down cabinets 4 and 5 high, stacked up on a tall boy 53 footer.
Jeez.
Yeah, like, and then getting them off like was just. I don't know. The first time I did it, I remember saying like, I need to have a forklift at this shop. Like, it's crazy to unload these. And then the next day, my guys had a tow truck driver bring the forklift from our main shop to our smaller shop we were loading. It was like, we're never doing that again. Like, it was terrifying. We got a huge load from Oklahoma. I think it was like might have been like 400 or 500 cabinets total, and it was just to take it. Like, it wasn't. The operator was like, if you want that cabinet, you have to take everything. And I'm like, okay, what's everything? Well, he owned a retired aircraft base. He bought it, so there were like plane hangars filled with games. I think it was actually it was Oklahoma, and the base like spanned in the. We had another one that was in like Arkansas, so we were like just digging games out of everywhere. Snakes chasing us, like it was crazy, And that was the time. Like, people always ask, like, how did you get so many games? I mean, you know, I've been doing this for 21 years, as my career, and then before that, I was even, I was adopted by an operator, and we were working with. I knew a lot of people in his network, so they would just give us stuff like, "Hey, you fix this monitor for me. Here, take these 5 pinball machines." It's like, I would say probably half my collection I didn't pay for, and the other half is Stern. So I paid a lot of money for those, but they, it was it was great though. It was a cool ride. I mean, now I don't do that anymore. I don't really hunt anything down. Very rarely. There's a handful of people that I'm trying to talk into, like, when they retire, to not just throw their games away, and it's a battle because they like the day they like. I have a guy right now that's 4 hours from me that truly just wants to demolish his building, and that's it. And that, he wants to sell the property with no building on it. Supposedly, it's going to be worth more that way as an old train building on it. And I'm like, dude, like, before you do that, call me. I will take. He probably has 100 classic games in there, and he doesn't want paid for them. He just doesn't want to have to deal with the hassle of getting rid of them. So there are still some old school operators out there. One other guy I know out in it's Montana, and it's crazy to me that, like, this guy in the middle of nowhere, just when he's done, he just wants to, like, light it on fire. He doesn't want to, like, sell his games. Or known him for 20 years, been seeing him at IAPA for 15 years. I mean, guy's 80 years old now. He's ready to retire, and you know, he just wants
Put
to
it
be
behind
done.
him.
Yeah, it's wild that they're still out there, like, knowing that the games are worth so much. Like, I get the most ridiculous offers from our locations sometimes. I'll see a posted note on a game saying, "I will give you $5,000 for this." And I'm like, I don't want to sell it, but, like, thank you. It's flattering. So
Well, I mean, sounds like you've got pretty much everything, and that Magic the Gathering game would be really cool. So if anybody has that, let
yeah,
Chris know. You
I
would
know
not have
2 people that
discounted.
have it, but they're not.
They're not wanting to let it go.
No, then they're not huge collectors. The one person that has it is like, he could benefit from selling it to me. I would give him, like, any pinball he wanted, and I have all of them. So yeah.
Well, that's pretty much everything I had for you, Chris. So I guess just shout out social medias. Where can people find Starport, and where can they find you?
Yeah, shout out. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all those things. Search Starport Arcade and Pub. Um, you know, I'm not a big social media guy. I have like 500 friends, and I cut like 5 people a week, so it's not like. But yeah, just check us out there. But really, dude, shout out to the whole indie scene. I think it's important that we try to support that community. Everybody that has a dream of having an arcade or making an arcade game, this is how you support that dream for someone else. So, we try to do that as much as we can. We love all our people that make these indie games and that support them. So thank you very much. And as always, Joe, you know how to get me, man. Give me a yell.
Always, it's easy to get in touch with you. Just shoot you a text, you let me know. But that's pretty much everything for today. So if you guys liked what we're doing here at Indie Arcade Wave, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Helps us a ton, helps us grow, helps us support more indie developers and arcades. And don't forget to check out Starport Arcade and Pub. It's an awesome place. He's got a whole indie room coming soon, so don't miss out on that. But until next time, peace.